Paul, come and join me. A round of applause, please. Yes, please, for PwC's US Senior Partner and CEO, Paul Griggs. Thank you, Paul. Fascinating. I was listening to them all afternoon, if I could. Just on what you heard, let me know what you found interesting. I love the idea of being a topic A and topic B. Topic A being about geopolitics and, of course, what's going to be a very, very big day tomorrow, and how CEOs can manage the moment. I mean, you speak to CEOs on a daily basis. What do you tell them, or how do you think they are managing the moment?
Well, let me react for just a minute.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm interested in your collective reactions as well. But the point that Andrew made around, or I should say the discussion around leverage caught my attention. And then the question as to why are we all here? And admittedly, I'd say where my mind went was, if we're really here for the perception of leverage, to me, as discussed, signals something other than a sticky, long-term, intentional relationship that's built on value. And someone said to me years ago that all relationships, whether it's that of your spouse or a business partner or a commercial enterprise, any relationship is built on three things: familiarity, comfort, and trust. And I believe that those three things enable the concept of leverage, not because I tell you I own you, but rather because you want to do things with me. And so I think we are all here on the basis of building familiarity, comfort, and trust across commercial enterprise to ensure that we can help each other and then, frankly, do good things for our end customer as well. And so that was a reflection.
Yeah.
In terms of topics that I am in conversations with CEOs, like all of us in this room. You think about the vantage point that a professional services firm has, like PwC. And in the US, we're 80,000 people, 17,000 clients. The gift that we have is the ability to travel and have conversations with CEOs across industries. And the topics are those that Andrew referenced. Of course, it's impossible in this week to get away from what is geopolitics and what does it mean for me, and the uncertainty that is, by definition, here to stay. One, AI for sure. The risks associated with AI, so cyber. What is resilience in an age where, if unpredictability is here to stay, well, resilience is a competitive advantage. And so this concept of resilience now means agility, adaptability, optionality. It's those topics.
Right, okay. In terms of mood, I mean, CEOs are naturally an optimist. I mean, you say you're an optimist too.
Yeah, I am.
You wouldn't be in the job if you weren't. But I do want to talk about your own survey that was released yesterday. It's a very famous one, of course. It's the CEO Outlook. And it shows that confidence in revenue growth is at a 5-year low, hasn't it? So despite the optimism around, despite the difficulties maybe geopolitically, what's driving that, do you think?
Well, and you're certainly talking to an optimist here. So admittedly, I'm a believer that I can take any data point and tell a different story, and it still be a factually correct story on the basis of how that data has been pulled together. In terms of comparing this year's growth expectation over the next 12 months versus where we stood last year, I think you also have to compare the environment and the stability or lack thereof, or the persistence of instability that we currently see. What I hear from CEOs is, listen, is there pressure around returns for AI? Of course there are. Are there the expectation, or I should say there's an expectation gap that shows up in our survey that's not all, the significant majority of CEOs would say innovation is a priority. But as the CEO responds to, and are my business processes built to drive an innovation to meet what I believe that priority requires, there's a gap there, and a real gap. And so ambition relative to execution is real today. If you then take, to me, the tried and true, what differentiates the good from the great, strategy is one thing. Execution is everything. And I think that what doesn't get talked about enough in this environment is strategy's clear, uncertainty's structural at this point in time. We know the big topics of the moment. What it's going to come down to, successful companies will be great at driving execution within their organization, which means an organization that is agile, an organization which can pivot, an organization which is prepared for whatever may come next, appreciating we don't know exactly what that looks like.
Okay, let's talk about topic B, what Andrew Ross Sorkin described as topic B, that of course being AI. Discussed everywhere at the moment here in Davos, but the tone, you believe, feels different this year, feels more urgent. Why is it? What's the fundamental difference?
Well, first of all, there's, as Andrew and David suggested, we all know there's significant levels of investment across our companies and certainly across the commercial operations of corporate America and work across the globe. So in the first instance, appreciate that at this point, the investments that are AI are just on the balance sheet, and anything that's on the balance sheet requires meaningful and responsive returns. And if you guys are like me, and even in a partnership, we have I've got my own board of of partners and external board members, and the demands for give me measurable returns that demonstrate the outcomes that we are professing we believe we can achieve, give them to me now. So the urgency is the investment periods are now growing longer. AI is on the balance sheet, and so it's inherently responsible to say and show me those returns. Are those returns driving revenue growth? Are they driving operational efficiency? One of the things that came out of the survey that we published, today's Tuesday, yesterday.
It is just Tuesday.
Was if you looked at, call it, the 4,500 CEOs that complete that survey, and those CEOs are across the globe. Those surveys are, CEOs of big companies, call that a third, CEOs of, of mid-sized, and CEOs of, small and medium-sized enterprises, so a third, a third. But those CEOs, broadly speaking, say about 31% see revenue growth from AI. That's not no one. About, in that same neighborhood, see cost efficiency, real productivity on the cost side. But then there's a big chunk that still stand and say, I'm not seeing those returns. Here's my personal opinion, and I'd say reflection from travels. Where companies get stuck is when they are still stuck in the experimentation mode around AI. Yes, there's a ground game we all have to play. We need to put assets and tools and accelerators in the hands of our people. We need to uplift the training and understanding of our people as to what AI is and how it implicates or can impact my business and the opportunities that it ultimately presents. But if it's just experimentation and the sourcing of use cases, well, you're not really solving hard problems. You're going to make incremental change, but you're not going to make transformational change, radical change to businesses. And so what I would say differentiates the process from the outcome are companies who are moving into, let me take some of those use cases that I believe solve hard problems, but now let me put real resources behind them. And I mean real resources that are committed and dedicated, that include business intelligence as well as the AI intelligence teams, engineers that we need to see those things accelerate at pace. Companies that are doing that, and then truly remembering that AI is not a technology change. It's a business change that requires good old-fashioned change management and organizational agility to reap its benefits. That's what the winners are doing more intentionally.
So just tell us a bit more about the winners, because that's who we're interested in. What are they doing then for that transformational change? Give us a few headlines.
So a couple of headlines. One would be, if AI shows up at the end of your traditional workflows, well, you're never going to see the opportunities or the outcomes that you otherwise intend. So to me, you need to first, if you're looking inside your organization in the first instance, and I mean whether we're talking organizational processes in the front office or organizational processes in the middle or back office, you better look at end-to-end processes and decide that I'm going to radically transform those processes end-to-end by embedding AI first mentality. That means, by the way, if you're just doing it along the side of what you've historically done, it's not going to go fast enough. And so what I see the winners doing are pulling out elements of business process, pulling out red teams, Navy SEAL style teams who are focused and disciplined and running sprints and held to outcomes, and then forcing the transform element of the business back into the business process. And so to me, it's embedding AI in the business, not allowing AI to show up as an outcome additive that it can certainly be. That's one. Two, it is giving the firm the resources that it needs to do this. And that means that it cannot be just another job. It needs to be some group's day job. And so, this concept of forward deployed engineers that I know we all read about and see and probably have in some cases across our companies, identifying the talent, recruiting and attracting differentiated talent to organizations, and then expecting that talent to push into the business, enable some of that rapid transformation as well. And then the final thing that I would say is just going back to remembering this is a large-scale organizational change management program which needs to be run as a very important, critical change program with appropriate milestones and outcome measures that folks are held accountable for.
It sounds expensive.
It's not cheap. But at the same time, the way I think about any investment worth making generally comes with the shape of a J-curve. And where are we in that cycle with AI? Listen, we can all read the headlines as it relates to and see some survey results that says organizations are not seeing the outcome benefits of AI. And then I could point to 100 stories of meaningful outcomes in real business processes with real customers where you'd step back and say, well, hold on, that benefited the customer. It drove revenue growth for the company. It bent the productivity curve, the cost curve inside the operating efficiency of the organization. We're just still in the J curve, coming up to the return period.
Just a couple more questions before we hit our cocktail hour. When you speak to your CEOs or your clients, do you get a sense of AI fatigue? Because we kind of just got our heads around this iteration, and now we're talking about agentic AI, and then we're talking about the next wave. And it's difficult, isn't it, for many CEOs to keep up, I would assume. What do you think of that?
Well, fatigue certainly shows up, whether it relates to AI or the uncertainty that exists in the geopolitical environment, or the macroeconomic environment. So fatigue is a real
Especially
thing, and I
expect
for all of you, and if you're attending too many nightcaps, then I would expect that fatigue is a little more real than it otherwise would be. Here's how I think about it. That if you say the word AI, all CEOs are tired of it. Meaning the phrase is just it's the next overused term. If you talk about the radical transformation of businesses, with the benefits of emerging technologies, including AI, you see the fire light up in the eyes of that CEO, appreciating that we have transformative technology in the hands of our people, and if we deploy this appropriately, well, we're going to drive real change, productive change for our companies. And so, exhaustion, fatigue, yes, but not in terms of what it can do for business. There's real conviction there.
Okay, I want to talk to you about workflows and workers in particular, or teams, because there is a concern, isn't there? We had the CEO of Amazon right here this morning talking about impact on jobs. What is the mood from the CEOs that you talk to about that, and how do you look at retraining, reskilling, getting workforces ready?
Yeah, first I'd say mixed emotion in terms of the implications of AI on jobs. I think there is a general sentiment that if I take routine processes, legacy processes, and I expect those processes unchanged, in terms of outcomes, to now be generated, performed, operated at the same level of cost and effort and the same number of people, I think that the CEO community would say, no, you wouldn't. You'd expect the legacy to be that productivity curve, cost curve can see meaningful efficiency. So I'd say that in the first instance. That being said, if you look at what possibilities this transformative technology creates to reach new customer segments, to enter new markets, to expand the buying power that is directed towards the products or services that we all create and produce, well, CEOs often step back and say, what, I need some additional people for that. And maybe I need talent that is a bit shaped differently from my own. Maybe I do need more data scientists and data analysts and engineers relative to what I've historically recruited. And so at first, I would say CEOs are looking at the shape of the workforce. They're looking at how they train their workforce and upskill their people. They're looking at how they then measure the accountability of that learning, not only ground up, but bottom down. You think about it today, we are all recruiting to the front end of our business, or I should say the bottom of the pyramid. We are recruiting more likely AI natives versus business natives, which exist inside our companies. And CEOs are focused on closing the gap between that degree of understanding. So who knows what it brings? What I would say is this. A business that it's like I was on a college campus with my oldest before she graduated. And I remember going on the campus, and the campus was in the middle of construction, and it seemed to be in persistent construction across her 4 years. And I remember the president of the school getting a question in this little meeting about when's the construction going to end. And the president said, I'll tell you what, as soon as the construction ends, you better get out. Because a business that is not building is a business that is dying. And I think the same is resident here in the context of what AI can do for commercial enterprise.
Yeah, and building skills.
Building skills, and building
But
opportunity.
you are talking about a huge challenge if you're having to completely rewrite the entry-level playbook for businesses. I mean, that is a big undertaking.
It is, but it's exciting as well. Remember, you're talking to an optimist.
optimist.
What I would say is this, and now look inside our business and think about how it compares and contrasts with yours. We recruit, entry-level hires out of colleges, universities, MBA programs is a big part of our business. We are train them up, send them out, promote them, et cetera. So our objective is we want to be one of the world's leading developers of talent who find their ways into the hallways of CNBC and every corporate entity and business entity that sits in this room. And so what are we doing now? Well, we've always had a lot of in-person hands-on training. Well, now it's the discipline around. There's an added week. That added week is deep, level 1, level 2, level 3 AI training. It's then taking cohorts of talent and then training them throughout the periods. It's putting them into pilot groups and sandbox groups that are building things for the business at the front end of one's career, not at the middle elements of one's career, and challenging the status quo in that regard. It's us then expecting that the individual's life cycle inside our firm is going to have them in job 1, job 2, job 3, job 4, job 5, not being stuck in job 1 for lengthy periods of time to allow them to see, to develop, to learn in differentiated ways. Said differently, we're hiring for skill much more than we are hiring for job. And we are expecting smart people to be able to take that skill and to transform themselves along the way.
Human skills, interpersonal skills?
Listen, the old adage of we measure AI fluency in both human skills and technology skills. So when we score our teammates on AI fluency, which we do, it requires both of those elements. And in the PwC playbook, there are like 15 human skills that we measure and track, and there are 15 technical skills that we measure and track. Those two things, create what we believe is AI fluency.
We always talk about two camps, don't we? Those who are doing AI and those who aren't. The ones who will succeed and the ones who won't. How do you characterize that, or is that too binary?
No, it's not for me. I mean, I would echo things that I expect. It was certainly that I've read in the press, and I expect many of you have said as well. I am a believer that AI won't replace your job, but someone who knows AI will replace your job. And I think that establishes a degree of urgency, across the workforce, which I think is healthy.
Okay, so in closing, one mistake that CEOs should avoid making right now, and maybe one thing they should be doing right now.
Listen, mistake, standing still to me is in the face of uncertainty is easy to do and exactly the wrong answer. So mistake is standing still, is still expecting that if I walk it back 5 years, maybe I have 95% confidence in every decision I make. And today, maybe I'm dependent upon 70% of the data to make those decisions. So my encouragement would be build process, build discipline around change, build confidence with being willing to pivot when that decision proves not to be exactly the right one, but do not stand still. And then the final thing I'd say is, and I said it earlier, is don't lose sight of what we all know is foundational to great business, and it's just robust, trusted, disciplined execution. And in this environment, whether we're talking AI, whether we're talking the risk stripes that show up, whether we're talking opportunity, set the strategy and then drive execution in a meaningful and hard way.
And I bet you're having some very interesting conversations this week.
Listen, it's been a great week so far, and I'm sure it'll be a great week. And looking forward to tomorrow and all of the excitement that may unfold. So
yeah.
Really looking forward to it.
It's gonna, and actually, you can watch you can watch President Trump's speech here if you're not going into Congress, and CNBC has an exclusive interview with the president as well. So we're very excited about that. And we're bringing that to you live as well this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. But it just leaves me to say thank you very much, Paul. Paul Griggs, PwC US Senior Partner and CEO. A really fascinating insight and kind of opening the curtain for us in terms of where CEOs are for 2020.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us a chance to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.